Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Hey, thank you very much for joining me for another bonus edition, our Rural Crime Edition, coming out on Saturdays. And hey, if you're listening, thank you very much for indulging me on this little venture, and quite a few of you are listening, so very cool. You know, I'm the type of person who I've got all this experience, all this education when it comes to criminal justice, when it comes to policing, all of that. Crime prevention. I've got an advanced certificate from Gavin DeBecker and Associates in threat assessment. I have an advanced certificate from, I forget the certifying agency, but in crime prevention through environmental design. So I've got all this stuff. I was always enjoyed that. I always passionate about that. And since I switched careers over and went back to agriculture, well, it just kind of seems to sit there, and in some ways it feels like it's being wasted. So I really do appreciate you all indulging me in this and letting me, mix these two things together. They certainly do mix, and unfortunately, they certainly do mix. But I do appreciate it. So, hey, let's get into it. I'm going to start off today with our segment on tips of the week. I've got two for you this week. Number one is very, very simple. There is a podcast called The Art of Manliness. Brett McKay makes this. Now, ladies in the audience, I know it's called The Art of Manliness. There's a lot of good information for you there on both his blog and his podcast. It's not misogynistic. It's not pro-male in the respect of, men or, somebody's got to stand up for men because of X, Y, and Z with women. It's not what this is about. If you want to take the time to research it on his blog, on his website, or through his podcast, you will understand the context in which he is referring to the show and why it's called The Art of Manliness. It's actually a throwback to the very, very early 20th century, and there's context there, but it is not misogynistic. I promise you that. As a matter of fact, the blog posts and all of it are put together by Brett and his wife. I think it's Kay, if I remember right. So it's he and his wife that put it all together. So it is not that way. Anyway, episode number 631 of his show, I listened to the other day, and it is how to prevent and survive a home invasion. Now, for those of us in rural communities, this is not a significant threat. This is not something that we're, walking around every day worried about. But like I was talking about a few episodes back, when these do occur in rural communities, they are very, very scary because we are not close to neighbors. We don't have anybody around. And so if somebody does come into our home and take things over, well, we're just at their mercy until they leave, just based on the fact that we like to live out away from other people and have our elbow room and our independence. And so what can you do about that? Now, I would not bring this up just to be panicky or anything like that, but at least in a few counties in the United States, and I haven't seen one of these stories pop up at all since I've started doing this episode, but I know for a fact where I used to live, where I grew up in Stanislaus County in California, that occasionally, maybe every 2 or 3 years, there would be some gang or group of people that would go out and they would start doing home invasions on rural farms, on rural properties out in Stanislaus County, and I know it's not the only county where this happens. So it's just something, it's one of those things to have in the back of your mind and to think about. And as I talked about this a couple weeks ago, I saw this episode on The Art of Manliness, and I listened to it, and it was very good. The guest is a man named Dave Young. He's a security specialist, former law enforcement, former prison guard, and had a lot to say that was important and will give you food for thought. So that is my tip number one. Check out The Art of Manliness podcast, episode number 631, looking into home invasions and what goes on there. Now, the next tip I've got for you, this is really interesting, and I'm trying to do a follow-up interview on this. We will see if I get it done. I have already made the request, so I'm optimistic. But there is an article I saw. This is published by a website called securityinformed.com, and it's about, there's a company I believe called Multilock, MUL-T-Lock, and they've got a set of locks they call eClick. It says locking solutions offer enhanced security against rural property thefts. Now, as I read through this article, it was geared towards the United Kingdom, but certainly what they're talking about is available and is applicable in the United States or anywhere else where we've got audience members listening, especially Canada, Australia. And this company, Security Informed, they are also based in Atlanta, as well as one location in Europe, I believe, and one location, I think, in Asia. Okay, so let me read this to you really quick. Theft has daily devastating consequences for the entire rural community, including farmers, livestock owners, and agricultural businesses. I'm going to skip down. Okay, protecting rural property requires vigilance and an agile response, with thieves constantly seeking ways to defeat security measures. Leading security expert Multilock is suggesting a number of ways in which farmers and agricultural business owners can protect their assets. For those looking for an access control solution, and if you remember back to my two-part series on using crime prevention through environmental design, one of those three aspects of CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, is access control. For those looking for an access control solution that offers convenience and comprehensive audit trails, Multilock's eClick technology includes the ability to schedule individual access permissions, provide time-limited access, and revoke access to particular keys as and when needed. A completely electronic locking system, eClick cam locks, can be quickly and easily retrofitted to any existing mechanical door lock, and eClick padlocks are ideal for multiple applications, including external gates, cattle sheds, and even firearms cabinets. Now, this was interesting to me, and the one thing that really stood out to me is here where it says that these locks have time-limited access. You can give temporary access, and you can revoke access to particular keys as and when needed. So, a couple things. I think of this like we have one of these keypad electric garage door openers for our garage at our place, and you can give a temporary code and program in how long that temporary code will last. So, for example, if we're going to leave for 5 days and we've got somebody watching the place, we can give them a temporary code and we can have it expire when we get back. And that way, if this person happens to give the code out to somebody else, if they turn out to be a bad person or whatever it may be, and they decide they want to come back and they want to get into our garage and therefore into our house and take something, that code will be expired. And that way we don't give them our code, the one that is always there. And you can do the same thing with these e-locks, even with padlocks, which I find very, very interesting. And that's important because let's say you have an employee, and not all employees are gonna, they don't always work out. And a major reason for letting employees go is employee theft. So let's say that happens, and you've got an old-fashioned padlock. Maybe you've got a set of padlocks on your gates, on your shops, or whatever that may be, and they've had a key. They may give you that key back, but they may have made duplicates. You don't know. And so all of a sudden, those locks are worthless. We've got a couple rental houses, and when somebody moves out, we'll just go ahead and replace the locks because we don't know how many copies of keys have been made over time. And so we'll just start fresh. Well, with this technology, you don't have to do that. That's really interesting to me. The other thing is you fire somebody or they get caught stealing or whatever, and they take off. They're no longer working for you. Hey, you can just disable their ability to access. To me, that's great technology right there. The other thing is if you are expecting a delivery, you've got something coming, someone's going to drop off fertilizer at your farm or whatever that may be, somebody's going to come pick something up, you can grant that temporary access. But it's not permanent. There's no way for them, if they're a person, of bad character, to use this one access with permission for them to come back and do something later. So that's something really interesting. And if this sounds like a solution that might help you all out, check them out. The website is securityinformed.com. The article is about Multilock's eClick. eClick is spelled E-C-L-I-Q. Locking solutions for or offer enhanced security against rural property thefts. And what I'll do is I'll link up to that hyperlink in the show notes so you can find the hyperlink for that article and then the products there over on offincome.com. So that'll be all there for you, but hopefully that helps you out. I think that's going to be very, very useful for people going forward as this technology continues to advance. All right, so let's jump over to talking about some rural crime in the United States. Now, we've got some, we want to put out the word on some cattle theft today, and if you're in these areas, have you be on the lookout. This article comes from KTIC 840 AM, 98.3 FM, and 98.7 FM, and 107.9 The Bull in Kansas, I believe. It doesn't say right here. The title, Stolen Cattle Out of Kansas May Have Made Their Way into Nebraska. The Nebraska Brand Committee is asking people to keep their eyes open as an investigation is underway in Kansas into the theft of 25 head of cattle that may have come north into Nebraska. The Wabanasi County, Kansas Sheriff's Office is conducting the investigation on the 25 cattle of mixed breeds, including Charolais, Angus, and others. The 800-pound heifers were red, black, red, white-faced, black, white-faced, or all white, and will have a 3M brand on their left hip and orange ear tags. Now, the ear tags, they're probably gone already, but the 3M brand is not, and that's a really easy one to remember. 3M, just like the 3M, do they test products? They make products like tape and stuff like that, right? So that'd be interesting. I wonder if it's the same company. I'm going to try and not get distracted here, everybody. Okay, currently there is a registered 3M brand on the left hip in Nebraska to an individual in Gering, but investigators believe the distance is far enough that these are not related. That's interesting. If you have any information on these cattle, you can contact Christian C.J. Fell with the Nebraska Brand Committee. And let's see, you can email him also, Christian.Fell, Fell is Fell, at nebraska.gov, and the phone number is 970-630-6430. So if you see any of those 3M brands on that left hip of those cattle, man, help these people out. It doesn't say where these cattle came from, but you got 25 800-pound heifers all put together. Chances are we're going to be replacing a lot of cows on whoever's farm or ranch this is, and that's a pretty big hit, 25 head. So yeah, let's help those folks out if you can. All right, I'm going to kick it over here to another cattle theft. Let me pull this up for you guys. I could be much more organized and have all these links pulled up as I'm doing this, but then it fills my page with so much I'd probably get confused anyway. All right, this article is coming from KSST Radio. This is in Texas, I believe. Yeah, $2,000 reward offered for information on cattle and saddle thefts in Northeast Texas. A $2,000 reward is being offered through Lake Country Crime Stoppers. Okay, Lake Country Crime Stoppers for information about recent cattle and saddle thefts in the Northeast Texas area. The Hopkins County Sheriff's Office, along with the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association, are investigating a theft of 11 450-pound heifers with purple ear tags in the left ear that were taken from a ranch on Interstate 30 west of Sulphur Springs. The cattle theft reportedly occurred sometime between the evening hours of Friday, August 14th, and the evening hours of Sunday, August 16th. HCSO, Hopkins County Sheriff's Office, first reported the cattle thefts on the station Facebook page on August 19th with the reward of $1,000 offered at that time for tips called into Lake Country Crime Stoppers. Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association are also investigating a theft that reportedly occurred during the late evening hours of July 30th. 4 head of cattle marked with yellow back tags were reported stolen from Winsboro Livestock and Dairy Auction. The animals were consigned to be sold the next day. I think we covered that one 2 weeks ago, actually. During the same time frame, additional cattle were stolen from another company. Yeah, we did. Mount Pleasant Police Department, along with Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association, are also investigating the theft of 2 saddles from a business in their city between August 14th and the 16th. Tips may be called into Crime Stoppers at 903-885-2020. So, hey, let's track these people down. Let's get these cattle returned. This stuff should, it's 2020. We're done with this, right? They still hang people for stealing cattle? No, we better not do that. All right. Wanted to touch on this one. This one's interesting. This is Texas as well, and this is coming from LMT Online. Operation Identification unveiled by Webb Sheriff's Office. On Saturday morning, the Webb County Sheriff's Office unveiled a new program it hopes will better protect the property of all the rural residents of the county. Known as Operation Identification, it proposes that people can now inform the Sheriff's Office what property they have so they can be more efficient in searching for any stolen property. According to other counties around the country that have set up similar programs, the Citizens Burglary Prevention Program is for use in homes and involves marking property with an identifying number as a means of discouraging burglary and theft in the area. So, this is a crime prevention technique. Okay, I'm going to continue reading. The program was unveiled by the Sheriff's Department at the entrance to La Lomas subdivision on Highway 59 and is slated to benefit and include all residents of the county, including the municipalities of Rio Bravo and El Cenizo. Today, we unveiled Operation Identification, a program that is aimed to protect rural area residents against property theft, fence damage, loose livestock, as well as identifying rural properties and ranches, Sheriff Martin Cuellar said. Once individuals register with the Sheriff's Department, they will receive a placard that will show their participation in the program in hopes of discouraging property theft. So obviously that's going to be displayed somewhere outside. Residents will then be designated a license plate placard that will be assigned to each respective property and will include the items they registered. Hold on, I got to read that again because I don't understand it. Residents will then be designated a license plate placard that will be assigned to each respective property and will include the items they registered. All right, I'm going to keep reading. All information will remain classified with the Sheriff's Office. In the event of a theft, the Sheriff's Office will have all property information on hand and help locate the stolen property. Furthermore, in the event of a damaged fence, owners can be notified expeditiously to secure their property and recover loose livestock. Although no data was provided on how this program has been effective in other areas where the program has been implemented, counties where the program has been implemented often see a decrease in theft. Cuellar said, joining the program is easy and helps protect the community at large from criminal activity. Okay. Well, I don't understand a couple things about this, but I'm sure that's just because I don't have all the information. The license plate placard, I don't know how that works, and the fence, I think they must just keep a record in a database of who owns what property and how to reach them. So if they do have a fence that's down and livestock are out, you can be contacted, because I don't know how else this would relate. But let me talk about this concept in and of itself. So you guys, as at least in the United States, and I say this as a disgruntled former police officer, disgruntled when it comes to investigating these types of crimes, and also being a lazy person, we are lazy. We are lazy. Our firearms all come with serial numbers stamped on them. Our bicycles all come with serial numbers stamped on them. Our electronics equipment all come with serial numbers stamped on them or taped on with very, very heavily adhesive stickers. And all we need to do is write those numbers down and store them somewhere. And so if any of these things are ever stolen, we can give those numbers to local law enforcement. By the way, there's other items we have with serial numbers too. Tractors, ATVs, they've got VINs, they've got things like that, vehicle identification numbers. We can give those numbers to law enforcement when we report the theft. And then what law enforcement does is they enter those numbers into a national database called NCIC, National Criminal Identification. I can never remember the last C. It's housed by the Department of Justice, the FBI. They maintain NCIC. Now that means that anytime another police officer comes into contact with somebody with a bike, with a firearm, with a stereo system, whatever it may be, they can run that unique number through NCIC, and if it's been entered, they'll get a hit back immediately saying, hey, this item right here has been reported as stolen, and we can recover your property, and better yet, we can identify, or at least get a great lead on identifying who the slimy little people are that are out stealing our stuff. But oh my goodness, have I taken a million police reports from people where they had a bicycle stolen, a firearm stolen, a piece of stereo equipment stolen, and they don't know the serial number. And hey, you know what? I'm guilty of it too. So I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here. I need to do better. But this is the same type of situation. Now, I love what they're doing in terms of not just being reactionary, because writing these things down is reactionary. It's proactive in that you're doing something ahead of time, but it's reactionary because you're only going to use these numbers once something has been stolen. But this sheriff's department is going to help you. They're going to put out placards. They're going to put out this license plate frame basically to tell thieves, anything you take from this place, we already know these people own it and we know how to identify it, and we're going to be able to prove it's stolen. A lot of thieves, bicycle thieves especially, but a lot of thieves get stopped by law enforcement with stolen property, and we don't have any way to prove that what they have is in fact stolen because nobody ever wrote down that number. So thieves know this. They know that the odds, and remember, we've talked about rational choice theory, we've talked about the cost versus benefit analysis that thieves do before they commit a crime, right? If the potential cost getting caught is higher than the potential reward, whatever they're going to get from the stolen property, then a rational choice offender will not commit the crime. Well, they've looked at and they realize how rarely people actually write down serial numbers, and therefore there's not a whole lot of cost in stealing items that have a serial number stamped on it, because the odds are really in their favor that if that number gets run by law enforcement, it's not going to come back as stolen. So when the sheriff's office, when they issue this placard and they put this placard out for would-be thieves to see, in the mind of the thieves, it raises that cost. So that cost-benefit equation skews in favor of the innocent people, and they're likely to pass on and not commit the crime at that location. So it's a really good idea, and if you're having a problem like this in your rural community, hey, look up this article. I have it linked on the website, and then contact your local sheriff's department and say, hey, did you know? Because, by the way, they may not know. Did you know this program exists? And here's some people in your profession you can talk to about how you implemented this. Folks, just because they're in law enforcement, and I say this as a former police officer, just because they're in law enforcement does not mean that they know everything, they don't know all the technology that's out there, and they don't have all the answers. You can help them as citizens if you're seeing stuff like this. So, hey, if you're having this problem in your community, look up this article and see if it'll work where you're at. Okay, next segment, where the Second Amendment does not exist. We're going up to Canada for this one, Manitoba to be specific. And this article comes out of a publication called the Brandon Sun. The title, Task Force Welcomes Rural Crime Survey. Okay, so what is this one all about? It says here, Southwestern Manitoba Task Force is satisfied the provincial government is moving forward on possibly amending legislation to address rural crime. A first step, as announced by Justice Minister Cliff Cullen on Monday, is surveying the public. So we've talked about this as well. Surveying the public gives you a much, much better indication of what kind of crime is going on in an area rather than looking at police reports, because so many people don't report crime. Matter of fact, looking through all my articles this week, there was a repeating string of articles from the United Kingdom where basically people were saying it's just a big waste of time to report rural crime because nobody takes it seriously. So if that's the attitude, there's a lot of crime going on that law enforcement does not know about. So going out and surveying the public will give you a much better indication of what's actually happening. Okay, so going on with this article. I think this stands for constable, but I'm not sure. Constable Scott Phillips with the RM of Sifton acts as the Rural Task Force on Crime's chairperson. He says some of the survey questions stem from the task force after a meeting it had with Cullen in February. One of the key issues is how rural property owners can protect their property. Now, this is why, well, let me just read on, and you'll see the difference between the U.S. and Canada. And by the way, these people are asking absolutely fantastic questions, and we should all do the same in our local communities, even in the United States. So here's the question. Where we live, especially where I live, I'm in a dead zone. I am in between ambulances, fire departments, and police services. If something ever happened exactly where I live, I'm in trouble, Phillips said. Going on, so what are our rights if so-and-so was breaking into my shop or so-and-so was doing something they shouldn't be doing? What can I do? What physical means do I have? Do I sit back and let them just steal the quad, kick the dog, take the tools, or can I do something? So this is a gentleman who does not understand what his legal authority is to protect his private property in the area he lives in Manitoba. Phillips said the task force does not want anything like what happened between rural property owner Gerald Stanley and Colton Boucher, a young man from Cree Red Pheasant First Nation, to happen again. Stanley shot Boucher dead in 2016 while Boucher and his friends were on his property. The last thing anyone in Canada wants, Phillips said. That should never happen on both parties. But rural property owners want to know that if there is a physical altercation, that Mr. Farmer or Mrs. Farmers are not going to be liable if they're protecting their property. And I'm assuming they mean both criminally and civilly on that. Phillips said it doesn't matter who's doing the stealing, they shouldn't be doing it, and that is true. The task force formed in January of this year is made up of representatives from 5 southwestern Manitoba municipalities from a western caucus of municipalities. When issues or tasks come to the fore, the work is divided up. It says here, this one was kind of getting a little too close to home. The real crime, said Phillips, who brought the topic of rural crime to the table. All right, so people are wondering what they can do, people who don't have police coverage. Now, this is the same in Canada, very rural, as it is in the rural United States. And that is, everywhere in the United States, every piece of every rural community has some sort of law enforcement coverage. But that doesn't mean you have law enforcement readily available. You are on your own if something's going on. And that's why I call this segment Where the Second Amendment Doesn't Exist, because I strongly believe, and this is anecdotal, but I strongly believe that the fact that people believe that farmers and people in rural areas are heavily armed and know how to and are willing and have the authority to shoot trespassers, I think that cuts down on a lot of this. Now, that doesn't mean all of that's true, but that perception certainly helps us. So that's an interesting one just north of our border, north of the 48th parallel. Okay. Well, now we're going down to the land down under. Queensland Country Life is the publication. It says here, livestock thefts increase as criminals use new tricks. And, hey, this could be coming to a community near you, so listen up to this one. The high value of rural livestock since the drought and bushfires is increasing the rate of duffing. It's got to mean theft, I would assume. in regional areas around Canberra and in southern NSW. Need a little drink there. NSW. I don't know what that stands for. North. I can't do it, everybody. I don't know Australia. I need to get down there. With NSW police expanding their investigation team and setting up a specialist task force, Detective Inspector Cameron Whiteside, whose rural investigation team is based out of Mudgee, but has a team in Cootamundra and cover the Goulburn, Hume, and Monaro districts, said criminal methodologies in livestock theft were changing as farmers had destocked due to drought and the summer bushfires. So what's going on here? Well, I'll read you this quote. Stock numbers on farms are at historically low levels, and the stock that are there now on farms are a very valuable commodity. So they had drought, they had wildfires, stock numbers were reduced, supply and demand, prices are up. What we found that has changed is that criminals aren't going for using big stock crates and semi-trailers as they would before. They are often using smaller vehicles, utes, horse floats, and even caravans. The only one I know what they are talking about right there are caravans. They might mean small horse trailers. I don't know, and I don't know what a ute is. But a caravan, I believe, for people of the English and Australian persuasion, is an RV, if I am right about that. If watching Snatch has taught me anything. Have you guys ever watched that movie? It's pretty funny. Okay, so they're using utes, horse floats, or even caravans to sneak onto properties and grab a few livestock and get out. So instead of the mother load, they're just grabbing a few. It says here stock theft is up by about 9% across the state to the end of July this year. Cattle, sheep, and goats are the main targets, and transportation of the stolen livestock using gutted caravans, which attract less suspicion as they ply country roads, is a new development by thieves. Yeah, you see an RV going down the road, and you go, man, those people are on vacation. That'd be fun. I'd like to go on vacation. You never think it's filled with stolen sheep or a few cows or something like that, but it certainly could be, right, if you modified it. So anyway, interesting stuff. All of those of you out there in rural areas of the U.S., you see a RV out there, and you don't know why it's there. Maybe somebody got a bright idea, and they're stealing livestock. I don't know. Something to be on the lookout for. Anyway, anytime I see new methods, new tricks being used by thieves anywhere in the world, I'm going to bring them to you because sooner or later they're coming to a farm near you, no question. Okay, so we've only got one story in our segment on Chalk One Up for the good guys today. So the bad guys had a good week because we've only got one story. This comes out of the Free Press serving South Central Minnesota. This actually comes out of Mankato. And hey, shout out to Minnesota State University, who I've been doing a little bit of work with, and they are getting their agriculture program going there at Minnesota State. That's really cool. Now, I've always been used to the land-grant universities being the state universities, Montana State, not Idaho State, University of Idaho, Fresno State University, Colorado State. But in Minnesota, the land-grant university that teaches ag is the University of Minnesota. I found out by working with the good folks there at Minnesota State. But Minnesota State is launching its ag program. So, hey, great for them. Okay, so back to the story. This one is somewhat comical. Matter of fact, I don't think any of this would have happened without the assistance of alcohol. The title of this article, Man Charged for DWI on stolen tractor, driving while intoxicated. All right. I think Vince Neil. Vince Neil never did a country song in his life. I cannot believe me. It's not Vince Young. Vince Gill. Vince Gill did a song about driving drunk on a lawn tractor back in the 90s. One More Last Chance, I think, is the name of that one. Anyway, kind of funny. Here we go. Lake Crystal. A drunken driver got his truck and tractor stuck in a ditch and stole another tractor to try to pull them out. Charges say. See, these are the type of decisions you make when you're drunk. I would hope to never be so intoxicated that if I was driving my truck and tractor and I got stuck in a ditch, that I wouldn't just walk away, sober up, and call a tow truck. But this gentleman is a doer. He's going to get that thing out. It says here, James Andrew Harris, age 21 of Winnebago, speaking of caravans, was charged with felony auto theft and misdemeanor DWI, driving while intoxicated, Monday in Blue Earth County District Court. A witness reported Harris had gone into a Blue Earth County ditch Saturday night and left the scene, possibly to get another tractor. A responding Lake Crystal police officer spotted Harris on a tractor on Highway 169. A breathalyzer showed he had a blood alcohol content of 0.15, according to a court complaint. The owner of the tractor, who knows Harris, said Harris did not have permission to take the tractor. Okay, look, we've reported some bad stuff on this segment. This one, DUI is not good. I've seen too many people die because of DUI, so it's not good. I'm not making light of this at all. But the shenanigans that people get themselves into when under the influence of alcohol do bring a chuckle, do they not? It does happen. So this guy's driving his tractor at midnight, pulling a trailer. Now, look, he had to work late. Work didn't go well that day. Because let's really break this down. I don't know anything about James Andrew Harris, but I'm going to give this gentleman, this young man, the benefit of the doubt in this case. Here is how I'm picturing what's going on. So he's got his tractor. He's pulling a trailer with it. And, well, it says his truck. A drunken driver got his truck and tractor stuck in a ditch. I don't have any photographs here. So I'm going to take a leap and say he was doing tractor work somewhere. The day went poorly. He's working very, very late. This was at, it says Saturday night. I thought it said a time, but maybe not. And so he's working late, and so he starts drinking. Who knows what he's drinking, but 0.15 is a high blood alcohol level. So if it was beer, it was a lot of beer. And if it wasn't beer, if it was hard alcohol, well then that's a significant amount of that as well. So he's going home late, long day after work, and he drives into a ditch. Well, odds are that he's working for somebody else, and this truck and this trailer and this tractor are probably not his. And so he is going to try and fix the mistake that he's just made. I mean, after all, he's just stuck. He knows where. Another farmer's got a tractor, and all he needs to do is just grab that tractor. That'll pull this truck and this trailer right out. So he's not trying to steal. Now remember, I'm giving this gentleman the benefit of the doubt. He's not trying to steal the tractor. He's trying to pull out the truck and the trailer he got stuck. And honestly, in Idaho, at least in Idaho, to be guilty of theft, you have to steal something with the intent to permanently deprive somebody of that property. If he is just borrowing without permission this tractor to pull out this truck and this trailer, this grand theft charge is going away. Most likely. So he's just trying to fix his mistake. But I will tell you what, unless he took alcohol with him when he walked to go get this tractor and was drinking that whole time, I mean, it's got to be at least an hour, right? Depending on how close he was to this farm. Between the time he got stuck, took off walking, and was driving back with a tractor when he got stopped by law enforcement. So he had to be, he's 21. He's got to be metabolizing alcohol at a fast rate. And he's still a 0.15 by the time he gets stopped. They do the field sobriety test. They do the 15-minute waiting period at least. And then they do the breathalyzer. And by the way, if they don't have the breathalyzer in their car, they got to drive him all the way to the station to do the breathalyzer at the station. That's a long time. He's still a 0.15. That guy was drunk. He had a lot of booze in his system. No question about it. And it is amazing what alcohol does to decision-making, everybody. My goodness, I have seen some horrible decision-making under the influence of alcohol in my life, especially as a professional police officer. I'm going to tell you something right now. I've never seen good decision-making under the influence of alcohol. Only bad. Only bad. So if you're planning on having such a good time that your BAC is going to approach a 0.15, I highly suggest you do it somewhere called home and you have a chaperone. My goodness. All right. Well, everybody, that is all I've got for you on our rural crime episode this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope some of those interviews I'm trying to get to profile some of this stuff will come about. And hey, as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.